Get your junk off our lot, old man. The manager's boot came down hard, scattering tools and memories across the baking asphalt. Wrenches clattered, a bronze star spun to a halt, and an old veteran dropped to his knees, silently gathering the pieces with trembling hands. Bystanders chuckled. Phones came out. No one helped. They thought they were humiliating a nobody. But just 15 minutes later, the ground trembled as a black military helicopter descended into the lot. When the dust settled, a man in full-dress uniform didn't look for the manager. He walked straight to the old man still kneeling beside the battered toolbox and saluted. The old truck had rattled into the lot moments before, groaning as it came to a stop in a far corner. The veteran stepped out slowly, cradling a metal toolbox like a relic. His weathered hands were marked with age, scars, and the weight of decades. He moved with deliberate care, each step measured. His posture remained proud, despite the years and pain etched into every joint. Heat shimmered from the concrete. The sun bore down mercilessly as he placed the toolbox by a back tire and wiped sweat from his brow. Inside the box were medals, a folded photo, tools from another life, each item arranged meticulously. Nearby, a group of young employees leaned against the store wall. Their shirts were crisp, their faces untouched by hardship. "Look at that trash heap," one of them muttered, smirking. Laughter followed. The veteran ignored them, walking toward the store. Inside, he selected hardware items with expert eyes, nails, screws, a tape measure. His hands steadied despite arthritis. Pain couldn't overcome discipline. At checkout, the clerk barely looked at him. "Total's 15.20, she said, tapping impatient fingers. He paid in coins, counting each one slowly from a modest pension. Outside, the manager's voice bellowed across the lot. "Whose junk is this?" He didn't wait for an answer. His boot struck the toolbox with cruel intent. Metal cracked and scattered across the lot. A silence fell as a bronze star slid to the curb, catching the sunlight. The veteran froze. For a heartbeat, he was young again, in another land, under fire. Then slowly he knelt, gathering each piece with quiet dignity. The employees burst into laughter. Phones recorded. A father pulled his child away. A clerk kicked a bent screwdriver into the gutter. No one stepped in. Words like "crazy old man" were muttered, but he continued, silent, resolute. He folded a faded photo, young men in uniform, frozen in time. A dog tag, its chain tangled and dusty, trembled in his grip before he pressed it to his chest. A teenager mimicked his limp. Cruelty thickened in the heat. But the veteran didn't flinch. He placed the last wrench back into the box. Then he sat beside it, quietly, waiting. A low rumble began in the distance. Dust rose. At first ignored, the sound grew until the ground vibrated beneath their feet. Heads turned as a black helicopter sliced through the sky, descending fast. Wind whipped across the lot. Shopping carts rolled. Hats flew. The manager staggered back, shielding his face. The helicopter landed with force. Doors opened. Soldiers in full dress stepped out. Then a colonel emerged, walking with unshakable purpose toward the old man. He stopped 2 steps away, saluted. "Sergeant First Class," he said. "Welcome home." The lot fell silent. Phones lowered. Guilt replaced laughter. The crowd that had ridiculed him now stared, stunned. The colonel knelt and picked up a wrench. He handed it to the veteran. No words, just quiet respect. Other soldiers followed, collecting tools, medals, and photos with reverence, a brotherhood across generations. Dust swirled around them like a ceremony. The manager tried to disappear into the crowd. No use. The colonel turned to the onlookers. "You laughed at a man who gave more to this country than you'll ever understand. You kicked away history." Shame rippled through the onlookers. Some wept. One young employee dropped his phone. The teenage boy who had mocked the limp now stood frozen, tears in his eyes. A soldier unfolded an American flag, draped it over the toolbox, Another helicopter landed, this time with a brass band. The national anthem echoed across the lot. People stood, hands over hearts. Ritual reclaiming dignity. Reporters arrived. A story was now unfolding that couldn't be ignored. The colonel shook the veteran's hand. The Army never forgets its own. The hardware chain's CEO saw the footage. The manager was fired immediately. A plaque was commissioned. To those who serve silently. Veterans from nearby towns began arriving, standing in a silent guard. The teenager who mocked the limp stepped forward, saluted. The veteran nodded. Forgiveness, wordless but complete. The toolbox sat beside him, dented but whole. The colonel faced the crowd again. This man jumped on a grenade to save his unit. He was given 24 hours to live. That was 52 years ago. Gasps. The manager tried to slip away, was stopped by soldiers. Accountability, swift and deserved. Weeks later, the parking lot bore a mural, the toolbox with a folded flag, a bronze plaque read, "Dedicated to the silent strength of our veterans." The story spread nationwide. Cities painted tributes. Schools told the tale at Veterans Day. Parking spaces were designated. Banners flew. But the veteran stayed quiet. Cameras held no interest. His truck still rattled. His toolbox still rode in the back. One fall morning, he returned. Autumn light spilled across the mural. He sat on the curb, toolbox beside him. No speeches, just memory. The store offered him free supplies. He paid full price for a single hammer. Pride over charity. Across town, the former manager saw him and turned away. A young veteran approached, seeking advice on a home project. Wisdom was passed quietly between the lumber aisles. Generations linked by resilience. True strength whispers through action. It endures through scars, in battered hands that hold on, in silence where dignity stands tall. If you believe true honor is carried, not worn, subscribe to the Unbreakables and stand with.